Let's make your wedding intentional as You are listening to The Bridal Breakdown. Hey guys, welcome to Season 2, Episode 5.
What? Double drop this week.
2 episodes in one day. We were feeling it was, we miss a little bit of that Season 1 energy where we had a couple episodes a week. So here's a surprise. Double drop.
And we also wanted to do something that felt like very, very broad audience. Like anyone could listen no matter where you're at in your wedding planning. And that would have been the episode before this. This one is a little more specific. And, but yeah, we're dropping 2. We'll do that maybe from time to time.
Yeah, whenever we feel.
Don't expect it. It's not going to be a thing. We're not going all the way back to Season 1.
No.
But this was Ashley's idea. So thank Ashley.
Yeah. Well, also, you guys, you may have listened to this original episode back in Season 1. It was a big boy.
Yes, we like to call big episodes beefy boys.
It was a beefy boy.
It was a beefy man.
It was. So if you already listened to the guest list anxiety, which was all the way at episode 7, then you're going to hear similar information again. However, this time we have a different perspective going into it in the way that Chris and I are at a different point in our lives. And the world is at a different point. So
yeah, totally.
And then it also has Season 2 energy where we're going to get quick, straight to the point, give you the info that you need.
Hour and a half. I still can't believe we did that. We were looking at our notes from season, because we have, for a lot of the episodes, we have like these long lists of what our notes were. And Ashley was like, oh my God, this was so boring. There's no way. She's like, we used like definitions and all sorts of stuff. So we're just going to throw all that stuff out the window.
Yeah.
And today we are going to focus in on having a conversation about how to anxiety-proof your guest list.
Yes. And by anxiety-proof, no, it maybe won't completely get rid of your anxiety about guest list.
Not 100%.
But like, we're going to put some tools in your toolbox that are going to help to make it a little bit easier. My husband is vacuuming, so if you hear that in the background before we jump straight into the episode.
Little housekeeping. We, I mentioned this at the end of the last episode, but we are now on YouTube. So if you'd prefer to watch us talk instead of just listen to us talk, because maybe you want to see our faces. Our hands doing things.
Yes, I talk with my hands a lot.
Ashley
Chris,
does
you don't
talk
really
with her
talk
hands.
with your hands.
I used to when I preached.
Yeah, you don't.
But I think maybe because I'm sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're very active with your hands.
Super.
You know, for anyone that watches us, do you ever watch my face?
Yeah.
I look so uninteresting. Like I just like, I don't know. I need to smile more.
Well, I pay attention to that in editing, and so.
Are you ever like, what the fuck, dude?
No,
Smile.
I just
like,
don't put you on. Like if you're or like if I find myself looking off because like I get a notification on my phone or I'm looking down at a note. I know that can be distracting, so I'll just have it be you. So it's edited decently. But we're new to the YouTube world, so if you'd prefer that, you can definitely go listen over there.
Yeah,
we also, at this time, have at least probably more than 7 episodes in our Patreon, maybe 8. Those are bonus fun episodes. Chris and I talk about wedding stuff sometimes, but like also like business and personal and have some fun, vulnerable conversations.
Got, like, really vulnerable, and I got off and I was like, wow, that was deep.
Yeah.
Like, we got some fun conversations in there.
They are. Chris and I normally, we used to, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
No, you're okay.
We used to, back in Season 1, like warm up, and that you like heard the warm up on the episode. So now we just put them on Patreon for the people who miss that like such candid conversations. So.
Yeah. So if you're someone that's like, I really miss like the podcast, but I'm not wedding planning anymore, Patreon's where you should be.
Yeah.
That's where all that stuff is.
$5 a month.
Yeah.
To help us support the podcast.
It will be good. You help us pay our bills and upgrade our storage on Google Drive. And
mainly
all that good stuff.
Upgrade our storage on Google Drive. We need more storage. Okay. So
with that being said,
to this episode.
When we talk about anxiety proofing your guest list, we obviously know that like nothing is ever foolproof, you know, but like Ashley was saying, we're just going to give you some tools to help you get through this very anxiety filled process for some people And one of the biggest reasons why I think that this process is full of anxiety is because there are lots of outside voices that feel the need to help influence how this takes shape, mainly parents, mom and dad.
Well, especially if they are financially contributing to the wedding, there's a layer of added pressure. And while I think it's warranted, like they should have an input whenever, and that's just a personal opinion also, but if they're contributing financially to the wedding, yes, they kind of are paying their way in with an opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
However, you're going to get those external, and even if they aren't contributing to the wedding, you're going to get opinions from other people on who they think should be invited.
Yeah.
Which is a really big thing. But on other people, like your spouse may want a big wedding, you may want a small wedding, or you guys decide that you want around a 200-person wedding or something, but then you realize 170 of the guests that are invited are all yours and they're only got 30, and you're like, now what?
Yeah. It's a whole process. It's a lot to sift through, and quite honestly, I think that a lot of people end up putting it off longer than they should, which kind of leads us into our first point. If you don't know when you should start actually crafting your guest list, spoiler alert, it's the first thing that you need to do before you do anything else.
And if you're already past that, you've already done other things, it's fine. But if you haven't, do this first.
And this is really important because the size, like a lot of people go venue first, which I get and I understand.
Because you need a date, and you can't get a date without a venue.
Yeah, you want to get the date nailed down, but how do you know how big of a venue that you actually need? Like maybe you're really overestimating and you're like going for a 250-person venue, but then once you guys actually get into the conversations and you and your partner decide like, wow, we really want this to be mainly family and a couple of close friends, you know, like, and you end up at about 100 when, you know, 100 people on your guest list, you could have saved yourself a lot of money in a smaller venue. Yeah,
and it could have felt more quaint and more intimate. You know, on that was the experience that my husband and I had when we first decided that we were going to get married. My guest list was like, I was thinking it was going to be like 150 people, like not everybody, but like a lot of people. And it wasn't until like working through our guest list and I'm like jotting all the names down that it hit us. Cause like I made a list, which you guys, there's a freebie, by the way, in the show notes that we made last year. And it's a good one. Guest list creator. It'll help you create your first draft, which you should do before doing anything else because it determines your budget, all the things. But in doing this first draft, I wrote down everybody. And I'm like, okay, here's our amount. This is what we want. And then we're like, okay, but who are our must-haves and our maybes?
Yeah.
And then encircling the maybes and then like putting like a big cloud around the must-haves, I realized in looking at Justin with like our wedding why, we were like, we only want our must-haves.
You saw a trend.
Yep. And that made it completely changed the venues that I was looking at. Originally, I was looking at wedding venues, and then I ended up looking at like a teeny little like Airbnb lodge thing.
This is so interesting. So Lara and I, pretty much in one night, we were up very late, and in like 2 hours, we planned our whole vow renewal, our 10-year vow renewal. But we spent a lot of now here's the funny thing: is after we did that, we're like, we don't know if that's the route we want to go. Like we planned it all out. But I feel like
it's the executing that takes place first.
But the hardest part, honestly, was guest list. Because we wanted it to be intimate, but we felt like, so I totally understand, like, it is tough to, like, rank your people and to essentially get, but you have to start this process early. This goes into our second point, and you already said it, but your guest list determines your budget. Every single dollar is a head. Every single person every head is $1. Every person that you invite is a place setting, is a chair, is a meal,
an invitation.
It's all of those things.
A napkin.
Right. So you think like, our I'm just going to do easy math. Our wedding is 100 people and their meal is $10. And so that's only, that's $1,000, right?
Yeah. I literally was like, I think that's $1,000.
That's $1,000. When really you don't factor in that the invitation is this and this and this, and you're not at $10 a person for their meal, you're probably more at like $30 a person. And if you don't know that information ahead of time, it's really going to mess with your budget.
Yes, absolutely. And something else when thinking about making, because you're going to make your draft, and when that time comes, which this kind of just goes into the next point, each person that you invite to your wedding is essentially time on your wedding day, because you're going to want to say hello to each and every single person that's there, or you may feel guilty the next day, you know, just whatever. You feel obligated. They're there to see you. You do want to say hi to them.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody that you don't want to say hi to, you don't want to give 5 minutes of your very short mingling time period to them, maybe reconsider who you're inviting, because each person not only is $1, but they're also time.
I love that. They're not just, you know, you only have a limited amount of time on your wedding day. And so it's like, do you want to spend a part of that budget on them people? Now, sometimes you got Aunt Carol and you have to invite her and you don't really want to because she's going to talk to you about her knitting and the blah, blah, blah. But you have to.
Yes.
She's Aunt Carol.
Yes.
But maybe you have a childhood friend that you grew up with and you feel obligated to invite them to your wedding because you didn't choose them to be in your wedding party and that you were in their wedding party. So now you at least have to invite them. You don't. That'll be a hard conversation and a hard bridge you may have to cross, but you don't have to. And this goes perfectly into us talking about the next thing that you need to do after you've determined your budget and you've realized, like, wow, every head is $1, is that you need to set guest list boundaries. Ashley, what are guest list boundaries?
These essentially are sectors of the relationships. I'm calling them sectors, but sectors of the relationships in your life. You have your work friends, you have your family friends, kids, extended family, plus ones. These are all different sectors of your life that you have to juggle and think about, okay, this is time and money on my wedding day. Who is it that's going to make the cut? Are my work friends going to make the cut? Are my mom's work friends going to make the cut? Is extended family a yes? Are kids a yes? So figure out those first before moving into the actual names of people.
Yeah.
Because that's a boundary that you're setting for yourself.
And it will keep you from going over and adding people. So let's say that you are religious and you have church friends. Maybe you decide we're not going to have the church sector in this guest list. And maybe you're close to like, I don't know, maybe you have a softball league or something like that. I don't
CrossFit.
Know. CrossFit.
Although CrossFit, I feel like most
would
people,
make the
that's
cut.
like their family.
But let's say you're new. You're new to CrossFit and you can see these people playing a huge part in your life, but you're very new. Like maybe you decide to not invite the CrossFit sector or in the church sector, but you decide to invite your family, your no family friends. We're going to do friends, and here's how we're going to determine the friends. But basically, you have to set boundaries because it's going to help keep you on track.
Yep. So next, we're going to actually do the draft. It is the draft. We are doing the fantasy.
Did you do yours on paper, or did you do yours? Like,
I did mine on paper,
like on a text. Oh, okay.
I did mine on paper. I have literally the paper. Yeah.
I feel like you've brought it out and you've showed it before.
I have the paper and the circles and everything. So you're going to create that draft. How did you do it?
The first time we did it on paper. This last time, I did it in a notes app.
Yeah.
Like for the vow renewal.
Yeah.
There's also significantly less people though.
Yeah.
And that's crazy going back knowing like, wow, there were people that we were really close to when we got married that now, and really our whole thought process behind who we're inviting, like our boundary was who are people who have played a significant role in our life that have been there for really high moments, really low moments. Like if they have been a part, that was our boundary that we had set. And we even had a big discussion about
like
whether
support.
or not we were going to invite our families. We decided to, but we definitely had the conversation like, I don't want to get low with your mom there. You know, like she said the same thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you're going to make this fantasy draft in a note on your phone or on paper, whatever works for you. There's also the guest list draft creator in the podcast. What word do I want? Show notes. It's just a PDF, not enough room to do this, by the way, but there's a bunch of like check boxes on it. So by creating your, oh my gosh, words.
Words are hard.
Words. So when you create your guest list draft, you're going to use those sectors, those boundaries that we created previously, family, friends. you can write that down at the top, friends, and then write down all of your friends, and then family, write down all of your immediate family, extended family, write down all of your extended family. Who gets a +1? You can do that later if you want, but our +1's a thing, decide. So write that down, the categories, and then list everybody, just brain dump. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. And one of the ways that we refined is we went through that and we started asking like, okay, like pretty much like you and Justin did, like, okay, now we have this list of all the people in our lives who are the non-negotiables. And so then we went through and it was very easy. I mean, that's the easiest part is you have the people that are your non-negotiables. It gets harder when you go anything past the non-negotiables.
Yeah. Well, because then you have like what do they call that? Oh gosh. It's like the if then, like if I invite this person, then I have to invite this person.
Well, if I invite this person from work, then I have to invite the whole office.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that. But let me just tell you, you don't.
Yes. But that's where it gets hard.
It feels like it. It feels like it. And I don't know. I struggle with this because I know it's easy to say that. You don't have to, but I know that there is a lot of emotional stress that sometimes comes with that, with like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with that. And I get that. I totally understand that.
I mean, that's where we ended up doing a really small wedding, was just because I was like, I don't want to have the conversation. And I look at it as a confrontation. Really, it's just communicate. I don't really want to have to communicate the why behind why we're only inviting one coworker and not 20 coworkers. I didn't want to have to do that. And so that's how we ended up going so small with 13 people. I just didn't want to have the conversation. But you can have, because you had that boundary, know why you have that boundary. That's something that you can do when creating the boundaries. Why are we not allowing all the work people? Money, maybe that's your boundary. Or maybe you have a venue size restriction. Any of those reasons why are really good backings for when someone asks. You're like, well, we're actually only permitted to invite this many people. And so we had to keep it here or something. Yeah.
No, I agree. Make and keep your maybes. Like maybe there's some people that it's like you get to them and you're like, I just don't know. Write a maybe down by them. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, like once you've kind of got all your non-negotiables and then your next tier down, which was like, hey, these are the people that we want here. And then you get to your maybes and then review those, and it's like, these were maybes. And I think it's totally acceptable when you have people in your life that are like new friends, new people that you're like, I don't know if I can invite them because I can see us being close to them. Like, I just want to go ahead and tell you, invite those people. I feel like those are the people that you're going to regret not inviting. Like, even if it's a fairly new friendship of a couple months.
Well, you also have permission to, like, remember this is a draft. And this guest list draft also may not be your final guest list. But what this guest list will do is it will give you an estimation of how many people you're going to have. It will start to make things really clear for you, like what type of wedding you want, how many people that you want. You start to actually visualize it besides it just being an idea in your head. And so it doesn't have to be final. This is just a draft. This gives you the idea so that you can pick a venue that's around the right size. This gives you a budgetary idea. And so when you do this, know that you don't really have to have a final guest list until 8 weeks before the wedding when you officially send out invitations.
Yeah, let's say you have 100 people nailed down, and just to be safe, you want to make it 125. And that's you just plan based off of number. 125.
Yep.
Right.
You do not need to finalize this until it's probably safe to say 3 months before. Save the dates go out 6-ish to 8 months before the wedding, whenever, in that range. But even if you don't send somebody a save the date, you can have extra save the dates and give them to them if you become friends later. You don't have to send them a save the date at all, but still send them an invitation.
Yeah.
You may get some no RSVPs, and then you have your CrossFit friends. I don't do CrossFit. I just know that they're tight. The family is so tight-knit, so it's a good example. So maybe you decided no to the CrossFit friends. You got closer over the last year, and you got some RSVP no's. You can now turn to your CrossFit friends. And it's not like you guys were second rate. It was, we didn't have room on our guest list and we really wanted you to come. We have room now because part of our extended family can't travel. Would you guys want to come to the wedding? I've gotten invited last minute to weddings because we became friends like through the wedding planning process. And
Yep.
last minute they had room and they were like, "Do you guys want to come?" And we were like, "Yes,
Hell yeah.
absolutely." Like I was honored.
Yeah, and people will view it as an honor. You know, I don't think many people will be upset about it at all. Now, the whole reason you're making this draft, and we didn't get too much into this, but this next one is kind of the whole, this is how you are going to anxiety proof your guest list. What you're going to do is you're going to reach out to your parents and your partner's parents, and you're going to create 2 separate meetings, not together, 2 separate meetings, and you're going to say, "Hey mom, hey dad, we just wanted to get together and we have created a guest list draft, and we just wanted to talk about it with you guys and get your input on it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we just wanted to let you know, here's what we were thinking, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe chime in and suggest some people or add some people." This is going to do a couple things, but the biggest thing that it's going to do is it's going to, I really think, catch your parents by surprise, and they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, they have their shit together. Like,
Yes.
they made a guest list, and
We didn't have to bother them about it.
No, and let me tell you, they will. They will bother you about it, and it becomes so annoying to get nagged. So just go ahead and get ahead of it.
Yes.
Knock out the first draft, and then
Yes.
initiate the conversation. They're going to be so impressed with you, and I think you'll go into that meeting with a little more leverage and respect because you like took a step.
Yeah. Also, you're making in this meeting, we calling it a meeting. Like you could just have dinner and be like, "Hey, we want to talk about
Right.
we want to talk about something with you guys for the wedding." And you show up, and you're going to make your wants clear to them, and then B, you're going to present the guest list and tell them what they can do with it. Like, we have this many people. We tried to think of everybody. We might have missed a couple of people. We still have a little bit of room. You know, we can still add. And you can make up a number that makes sense to you. Like we can still add about 10 people to the list if there is anybody that we missed. However, this is what we really want. We want a wedding that feels intimate. We want a wedding where when we go to every table, we know everybody there.
Yeah, that's a big one.
If that's a want for you, you know.
Sure.
Maybe you want the whole town there, that's fine too. But if that's a want for you, you want to know everybody there because you're investing time in each person, then make that want clear. And then they can do with that information as they wish because you're setting that boundary up front. Now, maybe this is just a different perspective. Maybe you have a parent who can be potentially a little overbearing for you, and you feel like maybe I might need to entertain this parent because they're going to want my attention and I don't have the space for that on my wedding day. I don't know. This is a random scenario, but it's something to consider.
No, but I actually think this is a really good point.
You may be standing, thank you, by the way. You may be standing in a position where you want to know everybody really well at the wedding. However, you have this dynamic with your family member, and it just might be easier to allow them to invite their best friend that maybe you don't know very well, but it's their best work friend, and you know that they will have that parent or person in your world will have a much better time if they have that person with them on their wedding day, you know, their best friend or whatever. I would personally give that invite to them so that they are taken care of on the day and I don't necessarily have to worry about it so much. You know what I mean? And that's not a situation in my world, but right. I've seen it.
Everyone knows their family dynamics and how their parents act in certain situations. And so obviously, I mean, you know your family, you know how they're going to react most times. And so this can be a strategic move that not only benefits you, but also them. And it's like a win-win for everyone. And so in these situations, it's worth it, if this is your dynamic, to go ahead and spend the additional X amount of dollars to let your parents invite their neighbors who know you, who know you and saw you growing up, but you would have never thought to invite them, but they're best friends with them.
But you know that it'll make everybody kind of have a better time.
Totally. And so then you do this with both sets of parents. And then after that, you're going to refine the list with the changes that they've made or the suggested. I mean, you don't have to take what they say, but you're going to take that new information and you're going to make some new decisions based off of what both sets of parents have kind of said. And that's just a really easy, simple way to show honor to those people in your life, to your parents, and it's going to make them feel really good. And truthfully, at the end of the day, the decision is still in your hand. But the fact that you took the time, thought of them, heard them out, and gave it thought is going to mean a lot as well.
Yeah, I think something to keep in mind, and this isn't for everybody. Obviously, the advice that Chris and I have comes from a personal experience of ourselves, personal experience of working with couples.
True.
But it's not going to be a blanket statement, and none of these scenarios can possibly cover every dynamic. But something that I do want to bring up that can be like putting yourself in like their shoes. And this, a lot of this conversation is surrounding parents, but I feel like that's where a lot of the conflict arises.
Yeah.
But you've been waiting for this day likely for a very long time, the day that you get married. They've been dreaming of this day since the day you were born.
Ooh,
a lot
come
of the
on,
time.
girl.
And having the respect to just put yourself in their shoes a little. This is not to say that they get to decide everything, but keeping in mind that they've been looking forward to this potentially
ever since you were born.
Since you, like, they were dreaming of it when you're in the womb, and they're like, I wonder who they're going to end up with one day. And like, just things like that. Like, it's something that they've been thinking about forever. And for a lot of parents, this is a monumental step in their life as well. And I think honoring them and honoring that, as much as sometimes it makes you cringe or the decisions that they are bringing to the table are frustrating, that can help bring some balance back when you're feeling frustrated with them, because it's emotional for everybody.
It's a big day for them. And we've talked about this here and there sprinkled throughout the podcast, but you know, I think it's really easy to get frustrated with our parents. Number one, because they've been in our lives.
We're
they
so
set
comfortable
the rules,
with them.
we're very comfortable with them.
It's easy to be frustrated.
Very, very easy. But like, for a lot of people, not everyone has great relationships with their parents. They are going through something that you have yet to experience, and you may not experience in your life depending on your choices. But it is a hard, emotionally charged day, from what I've heard, to give your child away, to trust your child with someone else. And this isn't even just a man to a woman thing or a woman to, it doesn't matter who they're with. Like, it is difficult and very emotional, very happy, but also hard. Like, I tear up every time during the father-daughter dance, knowing that maybe one day I'm going to be doing that with Ellie. And it's a lot. It's a lot to process. And so I know I'm going to be a wreck. It's going to not destroy me, but I'm going to be a wreck in the best way.
Yeah.
And so just keep that in mind. This is a happy day for them, but they're also processing emotions that they have never had to process.
And I don't understand, like,
yeah,
I'm not a parent. You are a parent, so you can like foresee what that's like a little,
but I still have not gone through it yet,
Yeah. So we can't, as the people getting married, I feel parents deserve sometimes a little bit more grace. Again, blanket statement.
That's a good word.
Doesn't apply to everybody, but they deserve a little more grace, especially as we can get so frustrated because we're like, this is my day,
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a little bit of insight, foresight might help you be less frustrated.
Empathy. It's empathy. It's just trying to have some empathy for what they're going through as well. And there's a balance with all things. It's like you want to stand your ground and establish yourself and fight for the things that are worth fighting for.
Yes.
But this,
especially
maybe this
priorities.
is a big deal. Maybe this is a big deal for you, but I think giving up some ground, not dying on this hill of guest list stuff, is one that if I was going to have to choose some of them, this might be one of the ones that I would not die on, and I would let parents have some wins here.
Yep. Unless you're doing, especially if you're doing a bigger wedding. But if one of your whys is we're doing something small, obviously stand by your wedding why. But
for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully this helps to bring some insight. If you're struggling ever with a certain person as you're making this guest list and you're in this draft, and maybe you, mom, dad, fiance are kind of at odds about somebody, or all of you can't decide, ask yourself, would I feel comfortable going to lunch with this person tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. And if the answer is no, that's kind of eye-opening. Yeah. Like, if I don't want to go to lunch with them tomorrow, why do I want to give some of my wedding day up?
Some of the most precious moments of your life. Yeah, no, that is a very good question to help refine that list. If you guys get to this crossroads and you're like, I just don't know about Jeremy. So like, I would never go out to lunch with Jeremy. Jeremy's not getting invited.
Maybe I shouldn't invite Jeremy.
Yeah.
So we hope this is helpful. If you guys have any input, we would love to hear it. You can connect with us on Instagram at The Bridal Breakdown, Facebook, and our private community. All these links are in the show notes. Find us on YouTube. Join us on Patreon.
Go check out that freebie that Ashley mentioned. That is going to be in the show notes as well. Other than that, y'all, we love you guys. And we don't just say that flippantly. Like, we care about you guys. We want you to have the best wedding day that is within your power to have. And we want it to be intentional AF.
Intentional AF. So excited for you guys. So excited for this journey. Connect with us. We will talk to you soon. See you next week.
Bye.